Welcome back. In a first, power companies will now have to compensate consumers for power cuts. The government has notified rules guaranteeing rights to consumers, which the Power Minister R.K. Singh says need to be respected. Praveer Sinha, Managing Director and CEO of Tata Power, joins in. Good morning, Mr. Sinha. It's always a pleasure to have you, whether or not there is a policy change. But this one is a big one. You are both a generator and a distribution company. How do you expect the impact to be?
Good morning, Lata, and thank you for having me on the show. I think this is a very progressive step by Government of India, where they have come with the rules which will ensure quality power supply to the consumers. However, there are two more players in this. The implementation has to be done by the state DISCOMs, and the enforcement of this has to be done by the state regulators. And it's important that they also come on board and enforce it, so that the quality power which the consumers have been asking for is supplied to them. And this will also bring in huge accountability on the part of the DISCOMs, that they supply 24/7 power and also provide quality power. This will also pave way for making the DISCOMs responsible for the supply that they need to give to the consumers. Another aspect that will happen is possibly this will also drive the privatization exercise that needs to be done, and how these DISCOMs have to be more commercially viable and financially viable, so that they can augment their network, augment the technology, and thereby provide better quality service.
So you're saying it is not immediately implementable. The state governments and the CERC have to put their stamp.
Yeah, state government and the state regulators. Because
the SCRC, sorry,
Yeah, CRC. So distribution is a state subject, and that's where they have to come on board and implement.
Okay, but if they do, you as a generator will benefit, no? Because DISCOMs will have to have a more regular supply of power from the generators, right?
The power sector will benefit from this, and so also the consumers. I think there will be more of accountability on the DISCOMs. They will have to supply power, and when you supply power, your revenue will become better. You would be more focused on your collection efficiency and your billing efficiency. And once you have better revenue, then you would possibly be able to pay the generating companies on time. You would also be able to augment your network. So I think overall, this is a very, very progressive step that the Government of India has taken. And if implemented in the right spirit and in letter, then I think this will be a game changer in the way the power is being supplied in the country.
So the other question I had for you is, there are some what I would consider vague announcements that the government is coming with a 3 lakh crore power supply reform in the budget, and they will put in a corpus of 60,000 crores, which is going to reduce DISCOM losses by about 12 to 13%. We don't have details, but this is doing the buzz among reporters. Have you heard anything, and how might that benefit you?
This is, again, Government of India for last, I would say, 20 years has various initiatives and programs. It started with the RAP, DRP program, Rajiv Gandhi Vidyutikaran, IPDS program, Deen Dayal Upadhyaya program. So all these programs were with the objective to improve the quality of supply and the network in urban as well as in rural areas. And the Saubhagya scheme that came, which ensured that each house in the villages will get electrified. So I think what the government is now trying to do is put all these things together in one single program. And that's why the corpus is a little bit higher. But I think this is in the right direction, again, to promote and support the state DISCOMs, that they should come out of their financial mess that they are in, and become more self-sustainable in the future, so that the power sector can progress, and especially when there's so much of investment that is coming up in renewable area, in transmission and distribution area. It's important that the sector becomes self-sustainable rather than waiting for support from government. of India.
No, it just sounded like a new Uday, but okay, we are all still waiting for details. Now let me come to Tata Power well and proper, not just policies. Now the ESG theme in terms of investment is becoming more and more prominent. So what are your plans? You all have already shifted, in a huge way to renewable. What is the plan in terms of what will be the percentage renewable by 2025, 2030, etc.?
I think Tata Power, as a progressive and the largest power company in the country, was the first to announce that we would become zero carbon by 2050. And this was a decision we took in this year, so that we very clearly spell out that we are moving away from coal over a period of time. And we also said that we would enhance our renewable portfolio. So from our present 30% of our total generation capacity, which is non-carbon, we would be increasing it to 50% by 2025, nearly 70% by 2030, and by 2050 or maybe before that will be 100%. Okay. So I think the roadmap that we have set for ourselves is a very aggressive roadmap, but very progressive in terms of spelling out the narrative that we will become 100% zero carbon company.
So now if we can talk a little bit about financials and the interest cost. You'll have transferred a goodish number of assets to InvIT, and then Tata Sons has also invested in terms of capital. So at the moment, what are the plans in terms of debt, and what is the likely interest outgo a year?
We have in this year reduced our debt. We started the year with 43,000 and we are right now about 36,000. And we expect that we will close the year with about 25,000 or maybe a little less than that. And we are very much on plan. And we expect that by end of quarter 4, we will be in the range of 25,000. We expect the real benefit of interest cost will come from the next financial year, because many of the activities were carried out in the second quarter and third quarter, and some will happen in the last quarter. So I think going forward, our interest cost will come down drastically from what we were. As you would know, that 2 years back, we were at 48,000 and we were paying something like 4,500 crores of interest. We expect that to halve in the next financial.
Okay. And of course, now you've got all these Orissa discoms, which are all regulated returns. So, you know the end game, you know your, revenue from there. So can you tell us, for the company as a whole, for the next couple of years, at least FY22 and FY23, you would have some visibility. What is the revenue run rate and what are the expected margins, in the very least for FY21?
Our revenue will increase now that we have taken the CESU distribution. Again, the full year impact will come in the next financial year. And we are in the process of taking over the other 2 discoms. So there will be huge revenue increase because of these, and each of them have about 3,000 crores of revenue, existing revenue, which will improve once we take over and improve.
How much will the EBITDA increase be? How much will the EBITDA be, sir? How much will the EBITDA increase be?
We are still working out the details, because this depends when we take over these discoms. Okay. The discussions are going on. So a little too early to say that. But what I would say is that the indicative numbers are definitely more than 20% of what we were last year. And that's the type of growth that we are expecting year on year. We also expect that our rooftop business will grow. Our EPC business, where we have an order book of nearly 10,000 crore, will grow drastically, because that's an area that we are focusing a lot, both for internal projects as well as external EPC projects that we would be executing. So I think overall, we are expecting a growth of nearly 20% in our top line. Of course, the bottom line will have an impact, because in InvIT, we will be reducing our equity. But I think on an overall basis, there will be huge improvement as we move forward.
Okay. And finally, I mean, this is the mandatory question. The latest on Mundra, have you all heard from all the states?
What we have tried to do is we did two things. First is we reduced the debt of Mundra. So from 8,000 crores, it's now less than 4,000 crores. So to that extent, Mundra becomes self-sustainable. We've also done a whole lot of blending of coal, and that has given us the flexibility to do spot purchase and distress sell. And we are seeing now
the pass-through decision.
The pass-through decision, it is still under discussion.
Okay.
And because of the amendment that the Gujarat government wanted. But other than that, I think Mundra as such is in a much better condition now and is quite sustainable.
All right, sir. That's a lot of questions that you've answered. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great 2021.
And you too. Take care and have a great 2020.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's quickly look at the financials. Actually, they were flashing past when we were talking with Mr. Sinha. First, you'll have the revenue performance coming up for you, and then the profit picture. Revenue has done very well. Profit took a hit last year.
Oh yes. By the way, Bector's Food, I think it's listing
500?
at 500 plus.